The canvas door. What NFL owners don't understand about trust. We're not here to tell you that you're doing it wrong. We're here because we understand exactly how hard the chair you're sitting in actually is. You're running an organization worth billions of dollars. You've got a fan base that operates with the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old and will turn on you the second you make a decision they don't like. You've got banks financing stadiums. You've got players, coaches, coordinators, scouts, medical staff, and a front office full of people who all need something from you. And somewhere underneath all of that, you've got a version of yourself that knows that the way you're running this thing isn't quite right. But you can't say that out loud, because the second you do, the whole structure might crack. So you perform. You project. You tell them what they need to hear. And the team keeps finishing 8-9. We've seen this before, not in football. In combat, there was a battlefield commander who got pulled into a briefing before one of the first major engagements his unit was going to face. And what he learned in that briefing was simple and brutal. His team was going to be fighting from a significant tactical disadvantage. Enemy on the high ground, his unit pushing through the low ground. The plan was speed. Move fast enough that the enemy couldn't lock in. Don't engage. Get through. Most of his men were going to be protected. Armored vehicles, not impenetrable, but enough. Enough to slow things down. Enough to get through, but this commander and the men driving with him, they were in softback Humvees. Canvas doors, no armor. If the enemy identified those vehicles, and they would because they knew enough about military tactics to know the soft targets were likely carrying leadership, those men were exposed. An RPG. A mine. Either one, and that's a wrap. He knew this before he walked into the briefing room, and here's what's important to understand about what he was feeling in that moment. He wasn't afraid of dying. He had already made peace with that possibility. That wasn't what was keeping him up. What was keeping him up was his men. Years of relationships. Years of knowing their families, knowing their names, calling them by those names even when military protocol said he shouldn't. These weren't subordinates to him. These were his brothers. And the thought of standing in front of a mother or a wife and explaining why her son or her husband didn't come home, that was the weight he was carrying into that room. So when he stood up to give the briefing, he didn't lie. He told them exactly what they were walking into. He explained the tactical situation clearly. He told them who was protected and who wasn't. And then he said something that reframed the entire mission. He told his men that the enemy was going to focus on the soft targets. On him. And he told them to use that. If they're shooting at me, they're not shooting at you. Use that. Get through the objective. Complete the mission. If I go down, you keep moving. Your job is to finish what we came here to do. I've already handled the navigation. I've already handled the logistics. And your rules of engagement are clear. By the time we get to that part of the fight, you don't need me anymore. The response from that room wasn't fear. It wasn't doubt. To a man, every soldier in that briefing looked at their commander and said the same thing. Fuck you, sir. We're not leaving anybody behind. You get hit, we get hit. We're getting through there, you included. That's not insubordination. That's what happens when a leader has spent years building real trust with the people around him. When the brotherhood is real, vulnerability doesn't weaken the unit. It ignites it, because those men didn't hear their commander saying he was expendable. They heard him saying their lives mattered more to him than his own. And they responded the only way brothers respond to that. The mission went better than feared. They moved fast. They hit hard. The worst version of that day never materialized, but not because the tactical situation changed. Because every man in that formation was completely present, completely committed, completely clear on what they were doing and why. That's what trust does in a high-stakes moment. It removes the noise. And all that's left is the mission. Mike Vrabel took a New England Patriots team to the Super Bowl this year that had no business being there. The analytics said no. The talent evaluation said no. The salary cap said no. But Vrabel operates on the same principle as that battlefield commander. No rank in the building. No hierarchy in the foxhole. First names. We do this together or we don't do it at all. And when something goes wrong, and things always go wrong, the accountability starts at the top before it touches anyone else. You cannot manufacture what Vrabel has in that locker room. You cannot hire a consultant to install it. You cannot put it in the employee handbook or announce it in a press conference. You build it the same way that Commander built it. Slowly. Honestly. By demonstrating through consistent action that the people around you matter more to you than the outcome. And then, when the moment comes that requires everything, you tell them the truth. And you watch what they're capable of. To the owners, we understand the position you're in. You're not running a football team in a vacuum. You're running a multi-billion-dollar public institution with a fan base that will turn on you for a bad draft pick and a media cycle that will bury you for showing any sign of uncertainty. The vulnerability that would actually fix your organization feels like the one thing you cannot afford to show. But here's what we've learned from watching organizations that win consistently versus organizations that get lucky once. The ones that win consistently have leaders who figured out how to build real brotherhood before the pressure came. Not performance, not projection. Real trust. The kind where the people around you will tell you the truth because they know you'll tell them the truth back. The kind where your coaches and your GM and your quarterback are all pulling from the same well because they've seen you demonstrate what you actually value when it cost you something. You can't show that vulnerability to everyone. That commander didn't walk up to strangers and tell them he was scared. He told his brothers, men he had built real relationships with over years, men who had already seen him sacrifice for them before he ever asked them to sacrifice for him. That's the sequence. Build the right people around you first. Verify through action, theirs and yours, that the trust is real. And then have the courage to be honest about what you're actually dealing with. Because the vulnerability you're hiding isn't weakness. It's the only thing that unlocks what you're trying to build. The Seahawks have it. Vrabel built it in New England with a roster that shouldn't have worked. And a battlefield commander once built it in a canvas door Humvee, on a low-ground approach with the enemy holding the high ground. The thing you can't put in a spreadsheet is still the thing that wins. We'll be here when you're ready to build it.